And when you're not in alignment, you're not going to be magnetic. But the moment I stepped into my strengths and really truly became who it was that I wanted to be, regardless of other people's opinions, that's when the cool stuff started. That's when the cool stuff started happening. That's when my audience began to grow on TikTok. That's when I interviewed Luis Fonsi. That's when I ended up on the front page of the New York Times. That's when I landed my first ever podcast interview on a huge podcast from somebody who I admired for years. All of these things were because I was in that magnetic energy. Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erika Cruz. Hello, and welcome back to Chingona Revolution podcast. I want to talk to you all about how to be magnetic and stop chasing. So how is it that you can, rather than chasing after opportunities, people, clients, things, you can be your most abundant magnetic self so that those things find you? And when I think about the things that I've attracted in my life, a lot of them were not even on my vision board because I truly didn't even know that they were possible. But I was in such magnetic energy that I allowed them to come. And I think one of the experiences from my life that I think back to is interviewing Luis Fonsi. I never had that on my vision board because it never even crossed my mind that was a possibility. But during that time, I was so magnetic because I was constantly showing up on TikTok. If you've been following me for a long time, or if you started following me because of TikTok, then you know I posted very consistently, sometimes 3 times a day, sometimes twice a day, at least once a day. And I was posting self-help content, mindfulness content about being first generation, Latino content, being a daughter of immigrant content. And as we got closer to Hispanic Heritage Month, I received an email from my TikTok point of contact. Geez, what would I call her? She was like my creator manager. And she was like, hey, are you interested in participating in Hispanic Heritage Month and interviewing Luis Fonsi? And I thought this was going to be a panel type thing. It wasn't until the day before that I realized, oh, I'm going live with Luis Fonsi to interview him. Like, why would they trust me with this? I have no interview experience. I did not have a podcast at the time. This was in 2020 around Hispanic Heritage Month. And I think what's so crazy about that time is that I had just quit my job. I had just put in my notice for the tech company that I worked for. And I think because I had put in my notice, I was so in alignment with what I wanted to create in my life. And I knew that I wanted to do my business full time. I knew that I wanted to work with our community. I knew that I didn't want to be stuck in a tech job anymore. And once I made that decision, all of these different things ended up kind of flooding into my space. And I've done this exercise a couple of times where I've really looked back at, okay, how is it that I've gotten to where I am? And as I look at not just this experience that I shared with Luis Fonsi, but with just all the other amazing things that I've attracted in my life. Like, oh, for example, being on the front page of the New York Times with my business bestie, Kat del Carmen, right? And this is all because Gigi. So if you follow Gigi, she is known as Gigi, the first gen mentor on Instagram and TikTok. Be sure you follow her. That all happened because she made an introduction to somebody. It wasn't like I was out there pitching myself to be in the front of the New York Times. And we didn't even know we were going to be on the front of the New York Times, but they were writing an article about people leaving their tech job. So again, right, me stepping into my alignment allowed me to be a candidate for this article that they were writing, which was all about how people were leaving and friends were leaving together. And my friend Kat and I both supported each other through leaving our full-time jobs. And I think what's so cool about it is not only did Gigi give me the opportunity, but then I brought Kat into the picture. And I also brought in somebody else who was in the mastermind that I was a part of at the time. So she was a colleague. And it's just, I think that what's so beautiful about attracting is that you're not necessarily in the needing energy, but you're in this energy of like, oh, I'm worthy of things and I'm in alignment with who I am. And that's when good things find you. So let's really get into this episode. I do not have an outline for this, but what I do want to talk about is how is it that we can be magnetic and how is it that we can stop chasing? And again, this isn't just opportunities in business, but this is also people. And if you've heard my podcast with my pizza analogy, then this will make a little bit more sense. But I think I want to share two different analogies with you. And then we're going to talk about those analogies and then I will talk to you about how it is that you can stop chasing and become magnetic and start attracting. So, as I was out walking Paloma, again, I was reflecting, how did I get here? And I was like, well, I didn't get here by chasing. I got here by essentially attracting. And if we think about my pizza analogy, this is my pizza analogy. We are all a bunch of pizzas, okay? And when we are born into with a crust, and it might be thin crust, thick crust, crusts are very diverse. The shapes of pizza are very diverse. So we don't really have choice over something like our crust. We're kind of born into it. So our crust would be something like your ethnic background, right? Being the eldest daughter of immigrants, being the youngest daughter of immigrants, maybe being born in San Francisco or Mexico or in New York or in Spain. So those are the things we don't really have choices over. It just kind of happens, but it's part of who we are. So if we think about this as the base of the pizza, as the crust of the pizza, that's what I would affiliate it with. And then there's the sauce. And the sauce is our family dynamics. So did your family practice Catholicism? Did your family go to church every Sunday? What was the vibe like within your family dynamics? Were your goals and dreams supported? Were they shut down? What kind of personality traits did your family members have? And then as we think about the cheese, that is more of your friend group and that environment that you grew up with. So maybe what the vibe was like in primary school or elementary school. What type of neighborhood did you grow up in? Did you play outside? Did you stay inside? Did you grow up in a community with people who looked like you? Were you the outsider? So until we're about 10 or 12 years old, we're just a bunch of cheese pizzas, right? Like we don't really have much influence over who we are at that point. But once our personality really begins to kick in, and once we really begin to identify our hobbies that we enjoy, and we begin to have a little bit more autonomy, that is who we really begin to create our own identity. So, what I've used as the reference with this pizza analogy is the toppings are who we choose to be. So we get to choose those toppings. And when we're younger, we maybe only see options of a few different toppings. We only see what's available to us. Maybe we think we have to be a certain way because it's the only thing that's been visible for us. But as we get older and we become teenagers and in our 20s, we then have the opportunity to update our toppings and to really make a conscious choice as to who we want to be. But what happens is we end up in these situations where we like somebody. Let's use the romantic example. We're attracted to somebody and we like them and we make assumptions based on what this person would like. So maybe we've put pepperoni and jalapenos on our pizza toppings because we like it spicy, right? We like it savory. But we're making these assumptions with like, oh, that guy's not going to like me if I have jalapeno. So let me remove those toppings from my pizza. But what happens when we remove our toppings from our pizza? Have you ever removed toppings from a pizza? The little crevice stays from the cheese and you could still see that the topping was there. So then we begin to change who we are in order to fit what we think we need to be. And this can happen with relationships, but it can also happen in business. We start marketing ourselves in a way that we think people want to see rather than being our authentic selves. And that, my friends, is not magnetic. That, my friends, is chasing. Because then what happens is, let's say that you're attracted to a guy or a girl, right? And you're thinking, okay, they don't like my jalapenos, so let me move them off my pizza. And then you end up being this like boring pepperoni pizza. But then somebody who's even more in alignment, who is your dream partner, is out here looking for a pizza that has pepperonis and jalapenos. but you've removed yours. So then you're not even energetically available for that person who was in alignment for you. Or let's say that there's that ideal client out there and you have been marketing yourself in a specific way. And like, I'll use myself as an example. For a long time, I've shied away from sharing how tapped in and intuitive I actually am. And more recently, I've began to lead with that a little bit more. And it's so crazy how I've been attracting the most ideal clients, people who I didn't even know could be such a perfect client, are now coming into my business. The same thing is happening with friendships. As I lead with who I am authentically, and the more I step into my authentic self, I'm attracting these people. And even in the dating world, like I have began to get very specific about what I want. And when I think that, oh my goodness, this is probably going to scare somebody away if they learn that this is the type of relationship I want, or this is one of my needs. And I've started to be more open and authentic with it. It's allowed me to filter out the people who should not be in my life. And it's allowed me to get a lot closer to people who I could probably have a romantic long-term partnership with. So I'm sharing this pizza analogy because a lot of times we try to modify the toppings on our pizza based on what we think people want around us. But what it's actually doing is putting us in a very chasey energy. And none of you listening to this podcast need to chase anything, because let me remind you that everything you want wants you to. This idea of chasing is nothing but scarcity mindset, and it's letting you believe that there's not enough to go around, so you have to make that thing work. And this goes as well, like, if you're trying to be everything to this client who's not even an ideal client, or if you're trying to make things work with your partner, even though you don't really like them because you're afraid that you may not find something better, that is all scarcity mindset. And whenever we're over here changing our pizza toppings, that as well is scarcity mindset. And it takes a lot of courage to show who you are authentically and know that who you are authentically is worthy of love and of opportunities and of a successful business and of anything that you desire. Okay, so I want you to really think about your pizza and who it is that you want to be. Who do you want to show up as? Not who you think other people want you to be. Who do you want to be? Because that is the energy that is going to be the most magnetic. The most magnetic. So using my life as an example, if we revisit the story I told you at the beginning about being in tech, when I was in tech, I had all the wrong toppings on my pizza. I had all the toppings that I thought other people wanted for me. I was taking courses on project management and program management, and I didn't even want to be working in tech. Of course, amazing opportunities weren't falling on my lap. No wonder a lot of opportunities were not falling on my lap, because I was not even in alignment. And when you're not in alignment, you're not going to be magnetic. But the moment I stepped into my strengths and really truly became who it was that I wanted to be, regardless of other people's opinions, that's when the cool stuff started. That's when the cool stuff started happening. That's when my audience began to grow on TikTok. That's when I interviewed Luis Fonsi. That's when I ended up on the front page of the New York Times. That's when I landed my first ever podcast interview on a huge podcast from somebody who I admired for years. All of these things were because I was in that magnetic energy. So I'm going to show you, or not show you, I'm going to tell you another little analogy. So obviously, I've been running a program called Courage Driven Latina for 3 years. This month, it was, or actually end of last month, it was our 3-year third birthday. I was going to say 3-year anniversary. It's the program's 3-year anniversary, the program's third birthday, whatever you want to call it. And that program is really specialized in helping people take that first step and taking action. And it's been such a wonderful program. And this round already, we've only met twice so far. We're in the second week. And this program now is 12 months long. And I cannot wait to see the results people get, because people are already crushing it. But what I did realize was I've grown, my business has grown. There's a lot of people who have been in this program who are ready for something bigger. And I was like, well, how did I get bigger? And I kept going back to I attracted things. I was magnetic, and I kept coming back to this word of magnetic. So the other analogy that I want to talk to you about is a magnet. So if we envision a magnet, what happens when you put a magnet by another magnet? So what happens, I have two magnets here from my fridge. Whenever I travel somewhere, I tend to get magnets for memories. So I have two magnets here in front of me. And the moment I begin to put these magnets close together, they magnetize. They come together, right? But what happens if I take a magnet and I put it next to a rock from outside? Nothing happens. I'm putting them together and they're not getting stuck. Here I am putting the magnet next to the rock. It's not getting stuck. Okay, now I have a little stick here. What happens when I put the stick by the magnet? It does not get stuck. So a lot of us are out here as amazing magnets and we're over here chasing rocks and we're wondering why the synergy isn't there. We're wondering why it's not clicking. We're wondering why it's not sticking. And then we find something else and we're like, oh my gosh, here's this stick better like me. And we keep getting close to the stick. But guess what? That doesn't stick either. That doesn't mesh. But whenever we get two magnets, as soon as they get close to one another, they connect. And then they don't come apart that easily. So as I think about this new program I'm creating, the reason I called it Magnetic Mastermind is because I don't want to just help people take action. I want to help people attract the right things for them in a way that's more magnetic rather than hustly and chasing, because business tends to be pretty masculine, right? We tend to be in our masculine energy in business because that's traditionally how it's taught. But creation happens when we bring masculine and feminine energy together. That is how creation happens. And that's also how creation happens in business, in goal setting, and becoming the best versions of ourselves. So with my goal of Magnetic Mastermind, which is my newest program, I really want to help every single person in this program see themselves as this incredible magnet that gets to attract what they want in their lives. But you know what happens sometimes? In order for us to be able to attract, we have to feel worthy of attracting the things we want to attract. We have to know what we want and know that we're worthy of having it and know that it's already available to us, and we just have to get out of our own way. But what happens sometimes is we're over here being magnets, right? But we're trying to shield ourselves from everything, really stepping into our masculine energy. So what we do is we'll put a shield in front of us. So I'm holding up a magnet and I put a book in the middle, and then I put the other magnet on the other side, but it doesn't stick. It does not stick, right? So that is just a visual representation of how sometimes we block ourselves, or we shield ourselves from our own blessings. And that is not what I want for my community. So Magnetic Mastermind is a life and business program that will help you improve your strategy, your spirituality, and yourself. And when you improve those three things, not only will your life drastically improve, but so will your business. So will the possibilities of you attaining your goals. So will all of that. So if you are interested in joining Magnetic Mastermind, then go down below to the show notes. And I want each and every one of you listening to know that you are magnetic. And I don't want anybody here chasing rocks or chasing sticks or removing the toppings from their pizza, because you are worthy as you are. Even if you think that other people may not understand you, your people are out there. I want you to tap into abundance and know that there is an amazing group of people out there who get you. You just have to find them. And the way you're going to find them is by showing up as your authentic self, by showing up as your true pizza, by showing up as the magnetic person that you are. So if you are struggling with chasing people and looking for validation, I want you to write down 10 reasons why you are such a chingona, 10 reasons why you are such a badass. Write those down. I want you to write down any accomplishments that you've had. I want you to write down 10 reasons why you are such a chingona, why you are a badass. Any lessons that you've learned, any accomplishments that you've had, any realizations, the healing work you've done, anything that's around self-care, any self-forgiveness that you've done. Write that down. Next, I want you to write down what it is that you desire. If you could wave a magic wand and how would have whatever you want come into reality, what would that be? And then after you identify what that is, and I want you to be unrealistic with this, okay? I want you to dream up the $1 billion home or whatever dream business or the partner with all of the things that you want. within a partner, all of the characteristics you want in a partner, write it all down. And then I want you to write down 10 reasons why you are worthy of having this. And then I want you to act as if you already have it and start to find evidence of how this is possible in your life. This was a short but a sweet episode. I hope you enjoyed the 2 analogies as well as the journal prompts at the end and the little homework at the end. If you feel energetically drawn to this mastermind, you are invited to schedule a call with me. Go to the link down below. I am very excited about this program because it is not something that's just going to be a hangout. This is going to be a transformational program. We are going to transform your mind, your abundance, your spirituality. I mean, I have so many fun things planned for this mastermind, including how to run your business alongside your period cycle, as well as how to really just tap into your feminine energy to really be as magnetic as possible. I cannot wait to talk to you. I will see you in the next episode and have a great week. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theerikacruz.com. That's Erika with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erika Cruz. That's Erika with a K, because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.